final thoughts. I do it every single Thursday when you guys got a big matchup coming. I spend all week grinding the tape. We do what to expect episodes. We did an offense and a defensive breakdown over on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. This week on the show on YouTube, we've brought you the verbals of those, right? We've given you the scouting reports with me just talking them to you. Today, I'm going to give you my final thoughts on what's actually going to happen, what I think is going to happen in this football game, starting with this one right here. I think Georgia has a significant speed advantage in this football game, particularly on the offensive side of the football. Okay, I've watched this Tennessee football team over 2 games the last several days. I watched the Alabama game and the Missouri game. Both football teams gave this Tennessee football team a lot of trouble with speed, whether it be Isaiah Bond, whether it be Cody Schrader on stretch runs. A lot of bad angles, not necessarily poor tackling, but a lot of exposure of top-end speed on this football team. I've watched them play a lot of teams, and man, they like to muck it up, right? We talked about last night how they are a disguising football team, and they like to do a bunch of, we're either in cover 3, we're either in man coverage. You're not going to really find out until post-snap. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much this football team can play man coverage against Georgia as well as other teams who have done it and mucked it up. Okay, I know South Carolina had a bunch of success. To be honest with you, when I went back and watched that tape, I couldn't really quantify how they did it. They did a tremendous job covering in that football game, way better than they did probably the rest of the football year. It's why they were able to hold Georgia to 24 points in that football game. I think Missouri did a really good job of playing man coverage, sending pressure, and mucking the game up a couple weeks ago. I think they have a little bit better line of scrimmage play, though, and linebacker play, and particularly corner play than Tennessee does in this football game. All right, they sat in cover 3 against Alabama, and I think they did it for a multitude of reasons. One, they were scared of the speed, but 2, I think they were scared of Jalen Milroe running and taking off, and you can't really play a lot of man coverage against quarterbacks who are rushing threats because you've got to have eyes on him, which is why, again, I think they sat in a lot of that cover 3 against Alabama. If they choose to do that Saturday, if they choose to sit in cover 3 in that soft shell zone coverage, Georgia will destroy them. We have talked about this over and over again. Georgia gashes zone teams, particularly cover 3 football teams, and if they want to live in that, they're going to get cooked. If I were Tennessee, I would try. I would try to play cover 1 man. I would try to be aggressive. I would try to play confident, and I would try to, muck things up and really disrupt the timing and try to be aggressive with this unit until I couldn't. Okay, until I absolutely couldn't, until they proved to me that they were going to be explosive and whip my ass if I remained in man coverage, I would try to do it and live in that and maybe throw some change-ups every once in a while. In my opinion, when playing Georgia this year, the recipe to creating a turnover, all right, is creating some type of pressure with obviously good coverage behind it, all right? Think about the times in which Carson Beck has thrown errant interceptions this year. I'm not talking about I dared to throw that ball into tight coverage, it was tipped and it was intercepted, a la last week against Ole Miss. Or I attempted to throw that ball on that deep runner over to, who's number 6? Dominic Lovett, right? Tried to hit it against Kentucky. Maybe a little bit of a confidence throw. That ball got an interception. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the balls where Carson's like, oh, crap, I'm about to get pressure, throw it immediately and erratically, all right, like we did against Vanderbilt, a ball that got tipped, an interception, ball that was probably thrown when it probably shouldn't have been due to pressure, and I think he threw another one of those footballs against Auburn, and he had another one against...
He had a pick against Ball State, but that was one of those deep balls that got tipped.
This was recent.
He's only had 4 on the year, I think.
No, he had one against Auburn. He had one against Auburn where it didn't get caught, but he had one that he probably shouldn't have thrown. That a kid dove on the Georgia sideline and ended up dropping. That's the other one I have on my notes. Sometimes I'll be riffing and I'm just like, dude, it's on the notes. Look down, it's right there. Those were the 2 balls I'm talking about. Vandy, I know it got tipped, but it got tipped due to pressure, right? And they were playing a little bit of disguised zone coverage out on the back end of that. The one against Auburn, a very similar set, didn't actually end up in an interception. But you get what I'm saying. The only time this guy has been lacked caution with the football is due to pressure, and I think that's the only way you're going to get them to actually turn the football over outside of just a little bit too confident in throwing the football. And those types of football throws, Carson's only really made this year up multiple scores. So if that's what you're banking on, you're probably already out of the football game at that point. I don't think there's one way this defense is bad. Okay, this Tennessee defense, to me, it's why they've played relatively well this year. I would say good this year, good to great at times this year, is because they are so old, they are so veteran, but there's not one thing that they do bad. There's not one thing that they're bad at. They don't run fit bad, every down. They're not bad at getting pressure. They're not bad at coverage. They're just good at coverage. They're great at getting pressure, right? They're above average in a lot of categories, except for the speed department. I do think there is, like I said at the top of the show, some speed issues, but they are a really, really well-rounded bunch without a superstar. Okay, I think this is a couple of years ago, Georgia was known as the no-name defense. To me, this is a very similar look at that without the top-end NFL talent that Georgia's defense obviously had on that unit. A lot of the matchup in this one in pregame talks will be about James Pierce, number 27, the edge rusher from Tennessee. And I'll be honest, they will frame it as Georgia's got to find a way to stop this guy. I think it's the other way around. I've seen the last couple of weeks, particularly against Alabama, when Tennessee saw James Pierce up against an NFL tackle like a J.C. Latham, they hunted other matchups on rushing or pass rushing downs. They didn't necessarily want him to sit out there and eat against a J.C. Latham. I don't necessarily think they want that matchup against Amarius Mims either. I favor Amarius Mims over a James Pierce at this point, even though Amarius has just come back from a high ankle sprain. So I would find ways, if I were Tennessee, to get mismatches against other people, not necessarily living and trying to die getting home against number 65. Again, it's something that they've done. They have shown a tendency to move him around. I would find, if I am Georgia, I would find ways to hunt number 44, particularly in the matchup department, right? If we can find a way to put Oscar Delp or Brock Bowers, ideally, on 44, you're going to outrun him. You're going to run by him, and it's going to be an explosive play. He's a really, really plus defender in the box. He stops the run really well. He is leading their team in tackles, don't get me wrong. But when it's outside the box, when he's stretched and made to pursue, it does get a little bit questionable, if you will. I think Georgia will abuse them on the defensive side of the football, guard to guard. All right, Cooper Mays, the center, left guard, number 78, and the right guard, I don't think are high-end, top-end SEC football players like maybe the rest of their roster might appear to be. I think if there is a weakness on this offensive line, it's right there in that box. And they're going to be facing some athletes that are far superior to them, right? Nazir Stackhouse, say what you want about him. He's an NFL football player, right? I don't know why you would say anything bad about him. Say what you want. Nazir Stackhouse is a top 65, top 70 evaluation right now in the NFL. No, he's not Jordan Davis. No, he's not Jalen Carter, but he's certainly damn good, all right? And he's a little bit more of definitely more of an NFL presence than what they have on that interior. Same thing with Zion Log. I would extend that process to Kristen Miller the way he's playing right now. Warren Brinson, we'll see what's happening with the calf strain. But here's where it's really going to be a problem for Tennessee, as it is for every single one of these offensive line units that lacks athleticism on the interior. It's the linebackers when they match you up and get you two-way goes with these really, really great athletes in space, particularly C.J. Allen, Smile Mondon, and Jalen Walker. I look for those individuals to really take advantage of the lack of lateral mobility of these interior offensive linemen. It's something that Glenn Schumann and this defense has done a tremendous job of over the last several years. I would extend it all the way back basically to about when Nakobe Dean started starting for this defense and playing a lot. His ability to mismatch against interior offensive linemen and get home, all right, has really changed the way this defense attacks pass rushers on pass rushing downs. Again, I don't think their interior guys are solid from B-gap to B-gap. I think you take advantage of that. In my opinion, it's the most lopsided matchup in this football game. I don't think Joe Milton only throws an interception Saturday. I think he throws a pick six against this unit. The way he has continued to stare balls down, stare routes down in this half-field read concept, it's going to draw way too many eyes and way too many bodies to the ball, right? To where the catch point actually is. Georgia's way too fast, way too instinctually at the defensive back position. I think it's going to ultimately be a problem. I also think it's going to be a Dejon Edwards football game. I went back and forth on who I was picking in the hot hand room at the running back position for Georgia this week, and I came down to this. This is a football game about levels on the offense and defensive line, and that's going to favor Dejon Edwards. What the hell do I mean about that, or what do I mean by that? Let's take it to the board for a second. I didn't prep you for this, and for that I'm sorry, but we got it right here anyways. All right, I'm telling you, this defensive line, now they play out of a 4-2 base, so let's just draw them with a nose, a 3-tech, an end, all right, a Mike, and a Will. All right. Now, I told you they play on different levels. What the hell does that mean? I've also told you they're allowed to get upfield. They're allowed to play aggressive. So if this guy's going to dart upfield, this guy kind of gets stonewalled. This guy darts upfield, and this guy kind of gets stonewalled. Well, guess what, guys? Now we got defensive linemen rushing on different levels, okay? On the run game scheme, on the run fit, they're on different levels of this defense. So if I'm a running back, right, if I'm a running back whose job, or I should say whose talent is really making guys miss and finding the right holes, well, let's say I'm pressing this gap. I got a good jump cut to get past him, and now I'm in that crease that has been created by the different levels of this defense that they're playing. You play Georgia, you play Alabama, you play most of these 4-2-5, two-gapping defenses, all right? They build walls. They make you run around them, right? We don't allow people to run north and south for these defenses. This defense, Clemson's defense, some of these more aggressive defenses that are going to allow Ohio State, allow guys to get upfield. They rush on different levels. It requires a running back that's going to ultimately find that level to hit. Dejon Edwards, uniquely gifted at exactly that. I think it's a big game for number 30 this week. Let's keep going. I also think it's a death march football game. I talked about this yesterday. I don't think this is going to be a 40-pointer from Georgia unless it just gets out of hand. The last 2 years when Tennessee's been a formidable opponent, this game's only been about a 14, 17-point game because of what I'm about to tell you. The moment they see consecutive 3-and-outs, Georgia will squat on the football. Georgia will go back to old school Georgia football. Here's 8 minutes, 12 plays, 75 yards. Come on, we finna knock your teeth in right now. That is the way that they win these football games against these types of football teams. I'm telling you right now, every single year against these types of teams, the message from University of Georgia football coaches is very, very simple. We are tougher than them. We are going to put them in a box, and we're going to punch their lights out for 4 quarters. That'll be the same game plan this year, and I think they execute it for 2 straight years. Welcome in, boys. How we doing today?
Doing good. Good, man. What about you?
What'd y'all think?